listen up. We're in the precincts of St. Paul's Cathedral. It's called Paul's Churchyard. This, by the way, is the 5th St. Paul's Cathedral, okay? The 5th one which has existed. The first was built in 604 AD because the Anglo-Saxons were then were the inhabitants around here had just been Christianized, and they got permission to to make London into a cathedral center. So 604, and that church was almost certainly a wooden church. Again, it was built probably on the foundations of a Roman temple. Now the 4th St. Paul's Cathedral is the biggest St. Paul's Cathedral of all. Okay, it was much bigger than this church. It was about, they say it was about 80 feet longer and about 100 feet higher. It was an enormous, enormous church, okay? That's what the 4th St. Paul's Cathedral is meant to look like, okay? It was a Gothic church. It had the tallest spire in Western Europe. It was always being hit by lightning. This was a massive, massive church, okay? Much big, well, you know, considerably bigger than this church at the moment, and Gothic in style. The original Paul's Cross is over there. Paul's Cross was the pulpit in the northeast corner, which were in the northeast corner of Paul's Churchyard, where sort of all the important announcements were read out during the course of the Middle Ages and even into the period of the Reformation. Remember, the people were largely illiterate, so a message had to be got out. The message was spoken out in the northeast corner of Paul's Churchyard at the Paul's Cross. So it was like an outdoor pulpit, right, where they announced papal bulls, excommunications, royal births, battles, etc. Everything which was important. They would ring the bells, people would come into St. Paul's Churchyard, and they'd hear the news, basically.
Sorry. Here we have places where things were damaged by shrapnel. See, it's a church or something, but it was damaged during the bombings. There's shrapnel in the wall.
So this is a much smaller church, and a much different church from St. Bartholomew the Great, which you're going to go into briefly. You can see the medieval bit which you just come through. This bit was rebuilt after the war. It's now sort of the chaplaincy to the hospital, okay? But it used to be sort of a mini sort of parish church here as well. Part of the city of London, okay, which is this part. It's called the Barbican, and a Barbican is a fortified place outside the city wall. That's what a Barbican is. So again, the city wall sits along here. So there's known as the Barbican. You've got the Barbican Underground Station, and this is where people in the city of London live. We've got the Guildhall School of Music. The Royal Shakespeare Company used to be based here in the 1980s and 1990s, but they moved out because it was too expensive to afford the rent. So they're now back in the West End. Prized it, and someone bought the tower, and again, that's another private residence there at the moment. It was, of course, destroyed somewhat by the Great Fire of London of 1666. It was destroyed again by the German bombing during World War II, but not entirely, right? So the walls were substantial enough to withstand a lot of the damage. This entrance gateway here was redone after World War II. It's the second largest hall in the United Kingdom. Okay, a hall is basically a very huge, big space, basically, where people would gather, etc. The biggest one, of course, is the one at Westminster Hall, built by King William II, which, when we were at Parliament Square last week, I pointed out the sort of bit of the Palace of Westminster which sticks out in the northerly direction. Sort of their flag flying here. And so the Big 12 dominate the governance of the City of London, and you can't be a Lord Mayor of London these days unless probably you're a member of one of the Big 12 guilds, or livery companies as they call them as well. So the Big 12 are, those are mercers, they dealt in cloth. Those are drapers, they dealt in cloth as well. Grocers. Fishmongers. It's going to a rugby match, right? The very opposite is the memorial to the firefighters, etc. So people who kept St. Paul's Cathedral alive during the Nazi blitz in 1940, then 41, 45 as well. If, again, you got to get through the church's view. It is a spectacular church. It's very simple. It's hard to imagine how simple this could all be. but very, very cheap. We go from there to Spitalfields Market, which is unmistakably an up market. Okay, that's a very serious market, very middle class, very, very trendy. Lots of jewelry and stuff like that. Lots of food. Okay, you won't die of hunger on this walk, I can assure you that. We'll go then to an up market, a place called the up market, which is sort of like the overspill from Spitalfields. Then we'll go up Brick Lane. Brick Lane is sort of the central street, it's sort of the eastern part of London. Brick Lane is associated chiefly now with the Indian restaurants, curry restaurants, Bangladesh and East End. There's the residue of the Jewish East End, sort of at the end of Brick Lane, where they've got these fantastic bagel shops. So that all the Jewish East End hasn't migrated entirely up to northwest London. Some of it is still sort of in the heart of Brick Lane. Okay, we're here just because for a couple of things. That's the new student housing which is going in here in Nido. They have one at King's Cross. I mean, they're European-wise, big corporations creating student housing all around Europe. So the whole area is being gentrified, right? This is a very poor, depressed area. Still is to a certain extent, because you can certainly from the market you get a flavor that it is more of an Asian market now than it used to be. But this used to be sort of from the 1880s on very much the Jewish East End, as you can see from this building, one of the survivals of that particular period. Jewish soup kitchen. When the Jews came in from Eastern Europe, of course, they were penniless. Down Fournier Street, you can see it's got a French name because it's named after the Huguenots, who were French Protestants who were kicked out of France in 1685 by Louis XIV, settled here, and they set up the silk weaving trade. So this area became known as the silk weaving area, and people still speak about it as the Huguenot East End, right? French Protestants came here. Because the French Protestants were here, because the Jewish people were allowed back in the 17th century, the government decided to create some new Protestant churches here. So this is a early 18th century Protestant church, Christ Church, Spitalfield. An act passed in the reign of Queen Anne 1714 to create 50 new parish churches in outlying areas of London in order to sort of make sure that the Church of England was reaching to humbler classes and reaching those people like the French Protestants and possibly the Jewish population living in this area. So this is an 18th century church, early 18th century, not designed by Christopher Wren, thank God. Okay, it's a Hawksmoor church, but again, it's a very significant church. Okay. The pub across the way, the 10 Bells, is one of the more famous pubs around here. It was in the 10 Bells that a certain man's victim, one of his victims, was last seen alive, leaving the pub very, very drunk, went down to the next street, turned right, and was found, unfortunately, on the next street. When I came here in the 1970s, it actually had a different name. It was called the JTR Pub. Okay, you can figure that one out.
So here is where they filmed that T-Mobile commercial, right in here, just a few weeks ago. And I will post a link to that commercial on YouTube, like right now.